when I see these Eastern Conference standings, I look at the 8 seed and it makes me sad because like at one point the Celtics they were, oh yeah, we about to come out the East, and all of a sudden they're fighting to be in the playoffs. I feel like they have way too much talent on that team to be an 8 seed right now. A game under 500. What do you guys think is going on with the Celtics?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, people are now putting Brad Stevens on a hot seat. I mean, we talk about a couple of years ago, possibly 3, 4 years ago, we thought Brad Stevens was the best coach in the NBA, and now he's on a hot seat. I believe at this particular point, I mean, you have to just part ways with Kemba Walker. When the season first started, the Boston Celtics was hot. People were talking about Jaylen Brown potentially being better than Jason Tatum. Both Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown was dropping 30-point games, some 40-point games sprinkled in there. As soon as Kemba Walker comes back, everything goes completely downhill. Now, I'm not saying this only solely on Kemba Walker, but let's be honest, the trend hasn't been good for Kemba. Now, in regards to everybody else in terms of the actual offense, I believe one of the things that you have to look towards with the Celtics is that they get a lot of their buckets in terms of isolation points right now. And Jason Tatum is right now one of the worst isolation players statistically in the NBA. I think his fall off is definitely synonymous with the Celtics fall off. I think if Jason Tatum could get back, I mean, this right here, this could happen anywhere, anytime. If Jason Tatum could get back to Jason Tatum that we do know and love, then the Celtics could definitely be a very good team. But as of right now, the offensive system that's basically tailored to Jason Tatum scoring off isolations, Jaylen Brown scoring off isolations, and even Kemba Walker scoring off isolations, that's not going to work when they're not hitting their shots. So I think because of that, they're not necessarily going to be that good as of right now. Again, as I said, their shot can come back in the playoffs, and if their shot comes back in the playoffs, then they're going to be a scary team, especially for the Brooklyn Nets. Hypothetically, if they do get the first seed, that right there is an 8 seed that you don't want to play. But in regards to Brad Stevens, I believe that the Boston Celtics, you feel me, basically flame out this year. I think you still stay with Brad Stevens. Right now, it's basically the COVID season. I think no team should overreact to the actual standings and records and actual productions of their team this year. Just chill out, wait till next season. If the results are still the same next season, and then you make a move.
If I had to make it simple, I would say they're a poor man's Nets, and here's why. Think about it. Kyrie Irving, James Harden, Kevin Durant, 3 of the best scorers of all time. It's already solidified. To go to Kemba Walker, Jaylen Brown, and Jason Tatum as your 3 best players, and their style of basketball is all ISO, you're not going to win a lot of games. And then you trade for Evan Fournier, which you had to do because you only had to give up 2 second-round picks. But you didn't need a perimeter guy. He averages 20, but his first game, he put up 0 in 30 minutes. You can look that up. It's just, I think that they needed a big man. They're too top-heavy, and then even at the top, they're not good enough to compete with these other guys. You know, we don't even talk about or think about Kemba Walker, you know, as an elite point guard in this league anymore. Like, nobody says his name. We don't even really think about Jason Tatum. We've spoken more about Jaylen Brown actually than we have Jason Tatum. You know, one of them have to take that next step, and I just think that the way the team is constructed, just it isn't going to win you much, and that is really why they're struggling, especially in the East. They're just too top heavy, but they're not good. Their top players aren't good enough to lead you as a top heavy style of basketball, if that makes sense.
Yep, the Celtics got to get their shit together, to say the least. But when I look at the teams on the outside looking in, the Bulls and the Pacers, they're starting to fall back from the A seed of the Celtics, and it's gonna be an uphill battle. Do you guys think that the Bulls or the Pacers can catch the Celtics?
I think the Bulls right now, they're in a process of, figuring each other out because they just traded for arguably their best player. I mean, obviously Tyler's probably going to say it's Zach LaVine, but arguably their best player right now, Nikola Vucevic. I think they're just in a figuring out stage. For example, last year when Miami Heat traded for Andre Iguodala and Jay Crowder, we were, I think, second seed in the East. And when the playoffs started, we ended up 5th seed in the East because they have to get acclimated to that. They have to get acclimated to the system. I think once everything is figured out, once everything is going to be good, of course, then they'll have their ascension, just like the Miami Heat had their ascension after their trades. Of course, propelled them to the finals. I don't necessarily think the Bulls are going to the finals, but I think they're definitely better than what they showed just now, and especially in the past couple of games, they started to win a couple of games. Now, in regards to the Pacers, I mean, this right here is very difficult. The Pacers have been dealing with a lot of injuries, but I think they're just not good enough right now. the roster isn't necessarily good enough right now. People thought that Malcolm Brogdon would eventually become a perennial 20-point per game scorer, basically like like borderline all-star. He hasn't necessarily taken that jump. Of course, he's better than what he was on the Milwaukee Bucks, but he hasn't necessarily fulfilled his complete promise. Sabonis is really going to be the heart and soul of that team. Unless Sabonis starts to average like 26, 27, I can't necessarily see the Pacers being anything too crazy.
The Pacers, they're like, I don't know why, but they just don't have. They're not built like a modern NBA team. You get me? They're like, they don't have that one star player that stands out because they're a bunch of nice supporting cast. They don't have like that one guy that really stands out. Therefore, I think that they struggle with winning a lot of ball games because at the end of the day, they don't have that go-to guy that could just get into a zone and get it going night in and night out. Now, as far as Chicago goes, I think that Chicago has a slight chance to make it only because the chemistry is a big part of what Chicago wants to do. It's hard because we're not used to having like available guys. We're used to having guys injured. Zach LaVine go out there and score 30 and still lose. It has to be a culture change, and culture changes don't happen overnight. Guys have to know what it feels like to win in order for us to get on a roll and push for that 8th seed. But Boston, I mean, I'll be the first. So I'll just admit it flat out. They have more talented guys on their roster. I don't think any of the guys on their roster are as talented as Zach LaVine. I'm saying that right now. But as a collection of guys, they have a more talented roster put together. So it's going to be tough because they might, stay stagnant where they're at. But it's all about who can go on that run, man. That's all basketball is, a game of runs. So I think there's a slight chance for Chicago.